Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going on a truly mind-bending journey into the nature of reality itself. We'll be unpacking one of the most profound texts in Buddhist philosophy, Volume 3 of the Shurangama Sutra. And honestly, we are going to completely dismantle how you perceive the world around you, step by logical step, directly from the source material.
I want to ask you something right up front. How much do you truly trust your own senses? Seriously, think about it. When you look at a screen, hear a sound, or taste your coffee, you likely assume you're interacting with a solid, objective reality. But what if that certainty is a complete illusion? We're going to look at how the Buddha used a sort of Socratic matrix-style deconstruction to completely shatter this very assumption.
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll ask, are our senses real? Second, we're deconstructing the 6 entrances. Third, we'll look at the 12 bases, which are placed nowhere. Fourth, we'll dive into the Tathagata Garbha, the wondrous true nature. And finally, shattering delusions and returning home.
Part 1. Are our senses real? The illusion of certainty. The Buddha explains to his disciple, Ananda, that our daily anxieties and delusions actually stem from a fundamental misunderstanding. We tend to think our eyes and ears are these absolute, crystal-clear windows to the world. But our visual and auditory experiences are really just the interaction of what the text calls fatigue, which is the physical exertion of our organs, and dust, the fleeting external conditions, like light and dark.
Moving to Part 2, deconstructing the 6 entrances through the physical analogies. The Buddha doesn't just ask Ananda to take his word for it. He provides these highly relatable physical proofs to establish the logical relationship here. Look at these examples. If you stare unblinking for a long time, your eyes get fatigued, and you literally start seeing spots or illusions in the light. If you press your fingers tightly into your ears, that physical strain creates a ringing sound. Snort rapidly, and you'll suddenly feel a cold sensation in your nose. Lick your lips repeatedly until fatigued, and a bitter or sweet taste emerges without any food anywhere near you. This brilliantly illustrates that these sensory experiences aren't objective truths floating out there in the world. They're literally generated by the strained condition of the organ itself. There's no independent reality to them at all.
The sutra then applies some incredibly razor-sharp logic to this. Where does seeing actually come from? Well, if seeing came purely from the empty void around us, then the void itself would be doing the seeing, not you. But if seeing came entirely from your eyeball, independent of anything else, then you wouldn't even need light to see. Because seeing requires both the organ and the external condition of light, yet belongs entirely to neither, the sutra concludes that the nature of seeing actually has no independent existence.
So the crucial takeaway here is that the 6 entrances, meaning our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, are fundamentally illusory. They aren't born of fixed causes, nor do they just arise spontaneously out of nowhere. They're a mirage. They are entirely created by the friction of our subjective organs interacting with objective dust.
Part 3. The 12 bases, placed nowhere, looking at the organ and the environment.
Now, we deeply analyze the logical relationship between our sense organs and the environment, what the text calls the 12 bases. The sutra uses this really fascinating analogy of a bell ringing in a monastery. When a bell is struck, how do you actually hear it? If the physical sound travels directly to your specific ear, then the person standing next to you shouldn't be able to hear it at all, because the sound is busy being in your ear. But if your ear somehow travels out to the bell to hear the sound, then if someone speaks to you right next to your body, you wouldn't hear them, because your hearing is away at the bell. Since neither of those scenarios makes logical sense, the connection between the ear and the sound is entirely an illusion. Let's look at how this applies to eating, because it's so relatable. When you taste delicious food, where does the taste actually live? If the taste is born solely in your tongue should always taste like that, even without food, right? But if the taste is born entirely in the food, well, the food doesn't have a nervous system, so it's just tasting itself. What does that have to do with you experiencing it?
The sutra leads us to this completely inescapable conclusion. Therefore, you should know that both the organ and the object have no specific location. They are fundamentally illusory. This means the very interactions we base our entire lives on, what we see, what we eat, what we hear, literally exist nowhere. They have no fixed location in time or space, meaning that rigid boundary between you and the outside world simply does not exist.
Part 4. Tathagata Garbha, wondrous true nature, the ultimate reality.
Okay, if everything is an illusion, you might be thinking we're just left with a dead, empty void. But instead,
we find the Tathagatagarbha. It's the pure, all-encompassing true mind. The emptiness of our senses is actually just the infinite potential of this true mind, manifesting perfectly across what Buddhists call the Dharma realm.
The Buddha proves this by looking at the basic physical elements. Consider fire. If you hold a mirror to the sun to start a fire, did the fire come from the sun, the mirror, or the tinder? It's literally none of them, yet it appears. Consider wind. If you swish your robe and create a breeze on someone's face, where was that wind stored before you moved? It wasn't in the robe, and it wasn't just sitting in empty space. Because these elements have no fixed physical origin, they're actually the Tathagatagarbha, the wondrous true nature manifesting dynamically in response to our collective karma and awareness.
So, why do we suffer at all? Well, delusions arise purely from our mind's false discrimination and our blind attachment to words. We take this fluid, wondrous, interconnected, true mind, and we try to chop it up into solid little boxes labeled me and my environment. Realizing the wondrous true nature of the Tathagatagarbha is exactly what dissolves these delusions. It shows us that what we mistake for absolute, solid reality is just the wondrous true mind at play.
Part 5. Shattering Delusions, Returning Home. Ananda's Awakening.
The text describes an absolutely incredible moment of liberation here. Upon hearing this meticulous deconstruction, Ananda's lifelong delusions are completely shattered. His mind suddenly becomes boundless. The sutra says he saw the vast space of the 10 directions, the entire universe, as clearly and intimately as looking at a single leaf held in his own hand. All his physical and mental boundaries just dissolved right into the Tathagatagarbha.
Filled with awe, Ananda makes this really powerful vow to the Buddha. He says, "Wondrous, peaceful, and all-encompassing Honored One, you have eradicated my inverted thoughts from billions of eons, allowing me to attain the Dharma body." He then vows to re-enter the suffering world to help all other beings realize this exact same truth. It proves that this philosophy isn't just some intellectual exercise, it's a profound, practical tool for total emotional and spiritual liberation.
I want to leave you with this final thought. You've now seen the logical breakdown of the very fabric of your reality. Knowing the secret of your senses, that the perceiver and the perceived are really just fluid manifestations of a single, wondrous true nature, how will you experience your very next meal, or the very next song you hear? Will you stay trapped in the illusion of solid boundaries, or will you let the wondrous nature flow? Think about that as you go about your day.